Hello, welcome to the Battling Barrow Gaming. My name's Kev and it's kind of that festive time of year, so I want to do something, a project somewhat festive, but also quite useful from my point of view. A few years ago I did a video where I had a look at my 80s Dungeons and Dragons miniatures that I had, and they were badly painted because obviously I wasn't that good, not that good now. But I've since stripped them, they've been in a box, but I've been meaning to get around to painting them. I thought this is an ideal time. I can use some of the models from that to sort of make a snow diorama, and whilst it's not going to look exactly the same as this, there is a book I've had since childhood, which is Conan of Chimera. That's what it's called, and the cover is, so I think it's Frank Frazetta. And it's Conan facing off against two frost giants. So I thought I'd use that because I've got a frost giant model from, which is actually quite modern, early 2000s comparatively. It's from Reaper Miniatures, so I'm going to use that as a diorama, and I have some D&D heroes facing off against a frost giant on sort of a snowy, rocky outcrop. And so the miniatures, I'm going to pick obviously the frost giant from Reaper Miniatures. I'm going to pick a knight that I had. He's going to be a paladin because he has a fur cloak, so I'm thinking that's cool. He's going to look like he's geared up for the winter. A cleric who's not totally geared up for the winter because he's in short shorts. It's not good, cleric. And a sort of thief rogue model. So this video is going to be about me making the sort of terrain diorama and painting the model. So yeah, let's get on with it. Before we get going, I just want to give a big shout out to a subscriber of mine. Called Jack O'Connor. Hi, how you doing? Thanks for watching. It means a lot. Hopefully next year we can get a game of Middle-earth SBG in, and it will be more Middle-earth content coming soon. And now let's crack on with the video. Let's have a look at the models I've decided to use. The first is actually one that's still available, so you can get this from Reaper Miniatures still, but I bought this about 20 years ago I guess, and it's going to be the main piece I guess, and that is the Frost Giant. Sort of already assembled him. I have to touch up the green stuff here, but yeah, we're going to have this. This is going to be the Frost Giant. It's going to be the main villain, as it were, of the piece. Let's meet our heroes. These are old Grenadier models from the 80s, and I think the first one, the main hero, is very fitting. It's a knight, so it's going to be some sort of paladin, but it has a fur cloak, so that's pretty cool. So hang on, let me just get a better zoom, shall we? This is what it looks like, and yeah, it's got a nice fur cloak, so I thought that'd be great for a winter scene. So that's going to be our main hero, this knight come paladin. What's this say, 1988 Grenadier? So he's going to be facing off against Storm Frost Giant. The second that we're going to be looking at is probably not dressed as for winter and as much really, being he's got bare legs and stuff, but this is a cleric. So he's got a blunt weapon, because back then, I don't know if it's still the same now, I haven't really looked in 5th edition, but back then clerics could only use bludgeoning blunt weapons, they couldn't use sharp weapons, so that's our cleric. Let's have an adventurous pack, so he's going to be the other hero. And the third one is, it's going to be a rogue, a thief. So that's what he looks like. Just quite simple garb he's wearing. So yeah, that is our heroes. So let's get going with it. The first thing I'm going to do is get a bit of chipboard, and I'm just going to draw a rough shape of how I want the diorama to be. I'm just going to do this, just putting the models roughly sort of where I think I'm going to want them, and I'm going to draw out the hills, because what I want this to be, I want the Frost Giant to be at the end of sort of a rocky hill, about so high, and then different level, almost stepped going up. I might smooth it out for each of our heroes facing off against it, with the paladin taking the lead. So I think something like that, and that'll be the 3 levels. Now I'm going to take some 10mm XPS foam, draw around the chipboard that I've cut out, and this will be our first layer. which I shall then cut out. Now I'm going to use that to trace around the second layer. So this is sort of a similar shape, but it doesn't go all the way around. And I'm just going to cut 2 bits of the same sort of size for the top layer to give it some height. And I'm going to glue this all together, and I'm just going to carve a slope in. So I'm just going to now roughly outline where the model is going to go, so I don't want to carve into this bit as much. And now I'm just going to glue it all together with some PVA. This is the next level going up. And now just putting in the final top layer. Squeeze this all together and allow this to dry, and I shall start carving out the slope. So I couldn't wait for it to dry out, so I'm just going to begin carving out now while holding it. Probably recommend, if you can do something similar, to either glue it with hot glue or allow the glue PVA to dry. This knife probably isn't the best one I could have used. I should really use a longer retractable blade knife, which I shall do in a second. Like this knife is much more better for use for this kind of thing. Doesn't matter how rough it's going to be necessarily, because I'm going to be covering it with snow anyway, and I'm going to have to cut some of the hero spots back in. At this stage I'm still not too sure if I'm going to be gluing the heroes into it or just using it as more of a display based diorama, so I can use the models still in games. I'm probably going to lean towards the latter. And now I'm just going to carve a rock surface into the end bit of the hill here, coming in and carving just chunks out vertically. And then once I've got it vertically, I'm just going to score some horizontal lines in to look like rocks. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use a knife and cut round where the model's going to go, and I'm going to put score lines in and hopefully remove a thin layer so the models can sit in a gap, so they won't look like they're just placed on the ground. Once I've done this, I'll just use a carving tool just to scrape out about 1 mil or 2 worth of foam. And this is how it looks so far. So yeah, they sit in there, it looks good. So I don't think I will be gluing them in place. They'll just be put into position. Okay, so I just realised I wasn't recording, so I'm an idiot. So what I've done is put some PVA in, and I've just come in with 3 different types of talos, some large, medium and fine, and just scattered it in here just to add a bit of extra detail to it. Yeah, quite happy with that. I'll let that dry now. Put some extra big bits in. Let's get some colour onto the miniatures now. I'm going to start with the cleric and do some flesh. Just going to do some contrast paint because I love flesh contrast paint. Hopefully these will look better than how I had them before. Don't forget his little bald spot, his monkey bald spot. Whilst we got this paint out, we might as well do the old thief's flesh as well. What about the giant? We might as well do him as well. Before I undercoated him, I thought this was flesh, but it's not. It looks like it's really skin tight leggings. If you look here, they're all torn. I can never make out what this was, so I might as well do. You can see this. Even though I'm using contrast paints, I am gonna give it some highlights and things with standard paints. What I've learned in my short time of trying to improve paint, contrast paint's okay, but you still need to do something with it, it basically just gives you your base and shade. Still really, to take it to the next level, going to want to add some highlights to it. Going to paint his rucksack and pouch in what's this, gore whatever, gore something contrast paint. It's a nice, used to look, to me it reminds me of Bestial Brown or Morfang Brown from standard range. And do his boots in snakebite leather. Nice thing about working with contrast paints, it gets you a nice sort of tabletop ready really quick. So if you've got a load of models you want to paint in a hurry, just use contrast paints. And then maybe if you do decide later on you want to take them to the next level, come in and add some highlights. Don't poo-poo contrast paints. They have their purpose then. So even though I'm trying to improve my painting, I'm still going to use them. And now I'm just going to do any wood areas, so his shield and his handle of his mace in wild wood, which is a lovely brown for a wood effect. It looks so good. Yeah, hopefully you can sort of see this. It's just a lovely shade of brown, so it looks like it's weathered as well. His shirt I'm going to do in sort of skeletal horde. What this would do is give me like this almost cream colour, because I imagine this shirt was probably once cleaner than what it was when he started his adventure. Going to paint the leather of his shield, inside of his shield, snakebite leather. Straps are going to be painted, straps and belts are going to be painted in Zygor brown. So 2 straps holding his armour in here. Got a belt here. Let's return to our thief. Well, we've got Zygor brown out. And boots can be done in this. So the contrast flesh is okay, but it gets a bit patchy, so it's going to come in with some cardigan flesh, as I call it. If you've seen other videos, I know it's not called that really, but I'm just going to little blobs on the top just to add a bit of skin tone definition. Not too much. I do want to let the contrast do its thing. It's just in the flatter areas. Contrast paints don't work well on flat areas. You gotta, like most tools, you got to use the strengths of them. Now, like on the back of his hand here, it just doesn't work as much. Whereas on his hand here, with all the creases, it works great. And now, just a little highlight of Kislev flesh. I'm going to lay down some colours that I know, I've already chosen. So, shoe's going to be this dark brown. This is Zygor brown. I'd say shoes, they're probably more boots, aren't they? His trousers I'm going to do in Skeleton Horde, because I want them to be this. Yep, that's what I want them to be. Sort of almost tan coloured sort of hose. I kind of want his beard to be a bright yellow, so for now, and I might add some highlights and bits onto it, but this is perfect. And get the wood bits done. Wild wood. Don't know what they're going to be. You may notice I'm leaving his tunic till last because I still have no idea what colour I'm going to be painting it. And the last thing I know for sure what colour I want it are his his fur around his legs. I want this to be white effectively, so I'm just going to come in with some contrast white. Perhaps this was a fur from some sort of Arctic-y type animal, bear, fox, rabbit that he's killed and skinned, and now it's keeping his shins warm. I want it to be white, and this is quite a nice colour. It looks grey when you first put it on, and you're thinking, well, I might as well just done a grey wash, but as it dries, it settles into all the cracks and gets lighter. But so it still looks white. You probably see it here. I don't know if you can. He's got little straps. I'm going to try and maybe pick those out in a snakebite leather or something when it's dry. And get his horns done in Skeleton Horde. These are probably the tusks from some sort of walrus type creature that he's killed, eaten, and using the horns. I think I've made some sort of decision about his tunic. I'm going to paint it grey because he's going to want a colour that doesn't stand out so much in the snow, so he's not going to wear anything too bright. Green's not going to help him, is he? So the way he can't get white cloth, he's going to get grey cloth. So I'm going to come in with this contrast grey, and once this is dry, I'm going to need to do extra work on it because this is a lot of flat area in it. As we've already established, contrast doesn't like flat. There we go with contrast on. As you can see, there is a lot of pull in. On the camera it looks darker in the recess than what it actually is, but it will need some proper paint touch-ups, but it gives me a rough idea of how he's going to look. I think that's alright. All the colours on now, non-metallic colours. The camera's not going to focus, of course it's not. So I'm going to do the metallics now, so everything's left. You see, and that's white here. Just going to be metallic-y. So, priest is looking like. Thief, the majority of him off. He's just in black, greys and browns, just very nondescript. The grey on his I'm really pleased with. Contrast paint, nice base, but I had to do a couple of layers of dawnstone and a lighter grey. But for the metallics, I'm just going to base coat in Ironbreaker. So come in and go straight from the pot from here, just to be lazy. I know I shouldn't, but I'm just going to paint all the blades metallic. And then all these bits, that was good off camera. So all these are going to be metallic swords, and all these bits are going to be sort of gold or brass or something like that. I've got all the metal work done now, and I've washed it in Nern oil, so that's how he looks. And got some gold on in places, and in a minute I'm going to hit that just with a bit of flesh shade. But I just want to get this guy's eyes done, which is, even at this scale, is a terrifying prospect. So I'm just going to get some white. I'm going to do like a sliver, hopefully. Shit. And hopefully hit it with a black pupil. Okay, stop shaking for more than 2 seconds. Steadiest hands in the world until I'm doing anything involving a paintbrush. Okay. a bit derpy, but I might hit that with flesh underneath. Don't know. This eye's really, I don't know if it's got it shut or anything. This eye looks alright. This eye, what the hell? Oh hum. So if this ever happens, you can just come in with a bit of flesh and just fix it so it's not as derpy. That'll do. That'll do, donkey. Now that the arm's done, I'm just going to come in and edge highlight. This is Stormhost Silver, so it's a really bright silver. Literally just going to put a line down there. Kind of leave chainmail fairly dull, because when you look at it, it isn't. It is. It's duller than sort of plate. Yeah. So it'll be the same for weapons. I just edge highlight them. And just pick out the edges on armour as well. Now that the painting's pretty much done, we might as well return to the actual, what we're here for, which is the actual diorama part of it, and we're going to undercoat the rocky areas in black. Next up, going to come in with a heavy dry brush of a dark grey. This is Mechanicus Standard Grey. And it's just going to go over all the rocky area. Next, want to come in with a dry brush or dawnstone. So it's going to get hopefully most of the paint off. And hopefully a final highlight of Administratum Grey, just a light grey. Before we can add the snow flocking stage, I'm going to add some sort of wintry type tufts onto the piece. Whilst they do have a sticky back surface, I do use PVA to attach them just to make sure they do stick, get really solid. And one thing to note is you don't have to use them whole like this. You can cut them down to make them smaller, so you can just cut them, glue them in so you get more tufts for your buck, so to speak. Right, we're on to the snow flocking stage. For this, we're going to need to make some snow sort of flock powder type thing, a paste. For this, we're going to be using Woodland Scenic Snow, but you can use whatever brand you can get hold of. You can even use baking soda, I guess, at a push if you wanted to. So for this, going to mix some PVA glue in, and yeah, that's not going to work that amount. Going to need loads, so pour it in, and then get mixing. And then once you've mixed it all up, we can apply it to the piece. I think the easiest way to do this is just to get handsy with it, like so. Just got to try and avoid the gaps we've cut out. Get some snow on the tufts and things. Yeah, we're just gonna apply it on. There'll be no right or wrong way to do this, I don't think. Well, there's always a wrong way. Yeah, this is my plan for this. If you find it too mixture getting too stiff to work with, either add more glue, or what I've done here is add a bit more water, just to make it easier to manipulate around. And when I say a bit more water, I mean actual water. So yeah, it just makes it easier to spread on. One thing you mustn't forget is to put snow on the bases of the miniatures, particularly the frost giant, as he has quite a big base. And while it's still sort of wet, I just want to come in and put some fresh sprinkles of snow on. So it's going to get a handful. Hopefully I want it to look as much like snow as possible. Probably won't. I'm kind of liking how it's looking. And try and do the same for the bases as well. And let's leave it to dry. And the diorama is complete, and yep, massively impressed with this one. Come out just how I envisioned it, which is always good. Really impressed. So a wintry D&D diorama. Paladin, cleric and a thief facing off against a frost giant. That's perfect. I love that. Bit of painting. Finally painted some old models I've had for ages. And a bit of terrain. Great project. That's it for this one, guys. Until the next one, please take care.